One of the things that bothered me a little bit about it, though, is seeing in the comments of the live stream, people saying it's so cool to see the process of these designers and see how they actually design. This is not at all how I design. It's a competition of speed, not necessarily a competition of good design. So one of the things that I thought would be interesting is to do the Relume Design League challenge again, just removing the 30-minute time limit. I had a chance to participate in the Relume Design League challenge where I went head-to-head against another designer, my friend Tommy Gioco, to design a landing page live in 30 minutes. It was a ton of fun. Hats off to the Relume folks for putting together something so fun and exciting for the design community. One of the things that bothered me a little bit about it, though, is seeing in the comments of the live stream as some of the other competitors were going, people saying it's so cool to see the process of these designers and see how they actually design. I want to make one thing clear. This is not at all how I design, and I would wager that this is not at all how the other competitors design too. This is a competition. It's a competition of speed, not necessarily a competition of good design or design that serves a particular purpose for a client or for a customer or anything like that. Creating a design that serves a particular purpose and finishing a design in 30 minutes and being as complete as possible aren't necessarily the same thing. So one of the things that I thought would be interesting is to do the Relume Design League challenge again, but just remove the 30-minute limit from this challenge. I think it'd be a lot closer to what I would actually do for a client or a customer in trying to design something that's not as fast as possible or as complete as possible, but actually serves the particular challenge. I'll take the same assumptions as the actual design challenge itself, which is that the wireframe that the Relume folks provided to us is the wireframe that is approved content. I'm going to assume that there is research to back up all the things that are in there. And really my job would be to make design decisions that support the actual goals of the page or the site or the actual product. So let me walk you through what Tommy and I originally did. This is the arena that we competed in, where his design was over here on the left and my design was over here on the right. If you haven't seen that video yet, if you haven't watched the original, I highly recommend you watch that first to give you some context into what the competition is and what we actually did. I'll put a link right here so that you can go and watch that video in its entirety before you watch this one. So this is the arena. This is the stuff that we came up with. The prompt, the brief here, was to design a landing page in 30 minutes for an AI design tool in the style of a colorful and illustrative art direction. So Tommy came up with this stuff over here. I came up with my stuff over here. I'll walk you through my design here. And really, just to be clear about it, my strategy was just to finish. So I wasn't necessarily working on something that was well designed. Honestly, I wasn't even working on anything that made sense. I was really just trying to finish and make sure that I finished all of the elements on the page. So the challenge was that the Relume folks gave us a wireframe, the same wireframe, and we were to reinterpret that wireframe in the style of colorful and illustrative. So this was mine, and we had a bunch of assets given to us. We have a mood board here with lots of different samples and images and of websites and other things that we could use as inspiration and influence in the work that we did. We also got a bunch of different product assets. So here we had some screenshots of tools that were actually custom designed for this match. We have some UI elements over here. We have some photos and photo assets that we could use. And then even cooler, we actually had some custom illustrations that are all vector-based and actually individual here, can be kind of broken apart and modified. And so we had all these really great illustrations and assets to work with. So I'll kind of walk through my design here. And like I said, my goal was really just to finish this. So what I did was I just went down the page from a wireframe standpoint and tried to design the easiest, most familiar versions of the things that I knew how to design. I was really relying on what I had in my bag of tricks, what I've designed plenty of times before, what I've seen, and what was very familiar to me so that I could design it very quickly. If I was designing this for a real client or for this actual application, I would approach this totally differently because I wouldn't have the pressure of time to figure out what to do. It wouldn't be like trying to make a decision very quickly and then stick with it. I think a lot of the process of design is making decisions, seeing how they look, seeing how they feel against other decisions, and then modifying and revising from there. That 30-minute challenge just removes all of the revision part of it, which I think is a really big part of the design process. The same thing is true of Tommy's. If I kind of walk through Tommy's version, Slide over here to the other side of this. Tommy had, I was working with a lot of the same elements. He had a slightly different art direction than mine. While mine was on this kind of yellow background, page background, Tommy had his on white, and he was really playing a lot with these blobs as a way to create some visual interest on the page. And again, same thing for Tommy. I can't speak for him or what he was thinking, but a lot of this was really just to finish, to find a quick style that could look good and just complete all of the elements on the page. How would I do this differently if this was something that I was doing for a client? Well, let's look at the wireframe and let's start there. The brief here is to create a landing page for an AI design tool called Reimagine. And so one of the first things that I would do, and I'm making some assumptions here, the research has been done to really reflect that this is the proper content and that will compel users and compel the audience that this product is designed for. So I'm not going to question those as much as if we were starting a project from scratch. I'm sort of take that for granted. And I'm also going to try and use all of the other constraints and requirements of the Relume Design League challenge, except for the time frame. Otherwise, I'm going to try to use the same assets. I'm going to try to use the same theme, style, colorful and illustrative, but just removing that time constraint instead. What I would think about first is, what is the most compelling way for me to promote this product? This is a landing page. That's the job of this landing page, is to get people to sign up for early access for this tool. So I want to try to put as much as I can on this page to get people to sign up for early access. So let's go down this wireframe and see what else is here. So over here, we've got some promotional sections like generate web design concepts in seconds, and then conceivably some image that helps illustrate that idea. Copy designs or to Figma or export as PNG, and again, some illustration that accompanies that idea. Of course, some examples. So showing some examples of a particular prompt that you might put in, and then a carousel or a slider that allows you to cycle between different prompts. And so if I abstract this and zoom out from this, the idea behind this is that we really just want to show this product in action. So I assume the research says that that's something that compels people to want to use this app or sign up for early access. Some testimonials here. So we've got a testimonial from Johnny that says, Reimagine is a great place to start my design process. All I need to do is press a button and I have a bunch of designs I can build upon. A lot of this is about speed. That's one of the things that I'm noticing in the wireframe. It's about speed and how fast you can do these. So in my mind, I'm starting to think about, well, I wonder if there's a speed theme that I could incorporate. And one of the things that I'm tying together just now is the mystery item for this particular challenge. The audience were given a choice between whether or not we could use blur or whether we should use noise, and most people picked blur. I wasn't sure what to do with that theme, especially on top of a 30-minute time limit. But now that I have some time to think about it, blur comes a lot when it comes to speed. When things are fast, when the Flash runs, he becomes a blur. So I wonder if there's something that I could show in here, but I can start to design some things for animation that make things go fast and blur as they whiz by. Maybe there's something in that motif that, again, sells the concept of this. And that's one thing that went missing in the Relume Design Challenge, is we just didn't have time to think about concepts like that. The closest we can get was just visual motifs. But now that I have a little bit of time, I can slow down. I can think about some themes to tie through the design that aren't just about a color or a button or something very simple. I can actually work with maybe a more complex theme like speed and see how that might influence the design. I don't know if that's going to work out, but just some early thoughts. Again, I don't have the luxury of thinking these kinds of thoughts when under a 30-minute time frame, but if I was doing this for a real client, these are the kinds of things that I would be thinking about. All right, so testimonials, and again, cementing that call to action of signing up for early access. So if I put those things together, I have to design something really colorful. I have to use the illustrations. I want to get people to sign up for this early access, and maybe I could communicate that. Maybe I could convince people to sign up for early access because I can show them how fast this tool is and how quickly it can help you design, as opposed to designing manually or designing without this tool, this AI design tool. Now that I've looked through the wireframe, now I have some basis for what I might actually do from a thematic perspective. And that affects, to me, the copywriting. I might edit the copy. I might change some of the positioning of these things to really go deep on that theme of maybe speed, or maybe just this is a tool that helps you. So that's the first thing I would do, just looking through the wireframe. The second thing I would do is now I would go and look for some influence. I would go look at other websites. I would go look at other things that maybe inspire me or make me think differently or think a different way or with a different perspective around some of the content that I have here in my wireframe. So Let me go back up to the top. This reminds me of software as a service, and that reminds me of a couple of popular motifs that end up here, like websites put the software front and center. The most popular one for me is Linear, the Linear app. So that might be a place that I start. Just let me look at that website. That's a very popular app. I know a lot of software as a service sites are copying this style. So I might not necessarily look at this for style because I don't want to rip off the style. Again, it doesn't even fit with the theme. It's not colorful and illustrative. It's kind of this darker thing, which I think when I think about colorful and illustrative, I think of brighter things. And in fact, if I jump back to Figma, the mood boards sort of indicate that a little bit more as well. There's not a lot of dark in here. A lot of this is these yellows, these kind of bright neon colors. In that warm palette also, and something like this. So I don't see a lot of things like the Linear website. So I'm not looking for this in terms of influence for style. I'm mostly looking at like, how do they do the same job? How do they actually help people to sign up for the app or convince people to sign up for this app? And like I said here, it's similar here, instead of sign up for the waiting list or early access, this is open for registration. So they want people to actually get started. So front and center, they show, here is what the app looks like. So maybe that's a thing that I might do in mine. It's just, let me just show what the app looks like. Back to my comp, I didn't even have the luxury of thinking that. So what did I do? I just picked the illustration elements that I had and just dropped them in the hero. Now, if I were to do it differently, maybe the hero should be, kind of like it has here, maybe I should just put the app front and center. Maybe that's the first compelling piece of content that I should put on here. What else is on this Linear site? As I scroll down, we've got some social proof, right? So here are all the logos. Here are all of the different companies that are using that. I don't have that in my wireframe, but if I was doing this for a client and it didn't come to me in a wireframe and I thought this was a good idea, I would insert it. So that might be something that I actually do as I'm designing, is I might insert this section. Again, in a 30-minute challenge, I'm definitely not inserting sections. In fact, I'm trying to remove a bunch. But if I was doing this for an actual client and actually trying to design this, I would say, hey, here's some content that I think would actually help the thing that we're trying to do. All right, some proof points here, unlike any tool that you used before. And this is the kind of thing that I think would never show up in a Relume design challenge just because of time. Doing something in 30 minutes, the amount of this is a custom animation that is built just for this one point, built for your keyboard, and there's a custom animation here. Same thing here. Breathtakingly fast. So they're taking all of these highlights of the product and really illustrating them at a fine level of detail to show you something about the level of polish that might be in the app. I think one of the things that this kind of makes me think is, if they put this level of detail on the landing page, I wonder what kind of level of detail is in the app. Now, I know some apps have glitzy marketing and really bad product. It could be that. But again, when I see this level of polish, I'm at least curious enough to go, I wonder if the app has something, that level of detail, that level of polish in it. So now that I have time, I might be able to put that kind of level of polish into my landing page that I definitely wouldn't have even attempted in a 30-minute challenge. Issue tracking you'll enjoy using. So again, they're doing a lot of the same things that I have in my wireframe here, where there are some points that want to be highlighted, generate web design concepts in seconds. And here, issue tracking you'll enjoy using. So again, they're illustrating and they're using some UI elements, which I have available to me in my mood board and assets. So I wonder if there's something like this that I could do in my site, in my version, now that I have more than 30 minutes. I'll scroll down. There's some features in here. So I like this thing. I think this could work really well. They're pulling out these big features and using big type and big illustrations for some of the more important things. And then some smaller features, go in here in smaller type. So they're definitely here on the landing page. This is something that is not high in the hierarchy, but still exists. Again, now because I'm doing this for a client, if I'm doing this project for real, I might actually insert this kind of section onto my page, something where I'm listing all of the features out, maybe small, in a small way, but I might actually add this to my page, add this to my wireframe. All right, what else do we have? I mean, really just showcasing the features and what this app Linear would help you do. There's a lot of that on this landing page. It's very feature focused and outcome focused. What else is here? And then the footer. I mean, that's really what's on the Linear page. So it's a beautiful page. The details are really well done. It's not actually very complex, which I think adds to how compelling it is. It's very simple. It's here are all the features, and here are some things that we are making shine about those features. So definitely a lot to learn from this kind of page. Oftentimes I'll go to looking at other websites. I like browsing siteinspire.com. I think it's a good site where I can find some good influence and inspiration. I like browsing the godly.website, also a good place for inspiration. I have a couple of other websites that I found, that I can pull up and use for inspiration here. I found this site, usekernel.com, and I think there's a lot of elements on here that are actually pretty close to what I already have, partially in my 30-minute version, and then I think I could reuse in my longer version that I'm doing here. Is a lot of this stuff. I'm using a lot of the rounded corners, and that was something that I was trying to do in my design because I thought that would be easy to design. Maybe I'll keep that around for the more detailed design, but that's something that I could use. Another thing that I like about this website is, like we talked about earlier, they are leading front and center with a screenshot of this is what the app is. So again, that's something that is pretty straightforward. It's not relying on any tricks or things like that to trick the viewer or the user. It's pretty straightforward. That might be a good thing that I will do. I'm probably going to start there and see how that goes. There's some really great ways in here to highlight and showcase some of the things that we have in the wireframe. So again, some of these big features like generate web design concepts in seconds. I could see, design 10 times faster, these kind of insets as a way to, and it has the same structure too. We got a headline and text here, and then an illustration or a diagram to the right. It's the same thing here, headline and text, a diagram to the right. So I could use that style, kind of use that as influence. And then coincidentally, kind of a similar structure to what I had in my 30-minute comp, this kind of 2-up pattern where I've got headline and text, and some illustration below it. I did that in my 30-minute version, headline and text, illustration above it. These illustrations don't actually make sense. I just want to drop something visual there. But now that I have some time, maybe I could still reuse that structure, but use it in a way that actually makes more sense, and in the same way like this, where it's showing some diagrams or some animations even for the product itself. Then some almost literal diagrams here. That might be something interesting to show. Some testimonials, right? So that's something that I have on mine. I just designed one for time, really, and that's in the wireframe as well. It's just one, but over here there's multiple testimonials, and so that might be better to add as just multiple versions of that. Again, in 30 minutes I want to reduce the amount of things I'm designing, but past that, if I have more time, maybe some more testimonials is actually a better way to go. And I've got some roadmap or kind of new items here. That's kind of cool. I might add that to my page. So again, this is a thing that in a competition, I'm trying to reduce the amount I'm trying to design. But if I was actually doing this for real for a client, I might increase that if I come up with new ideas of things that I think could be better or help to sell the product a little bit better. I think part of my job as a designer is to use all of the things at my disposal, not just design or UI design or visual design chops, but just ideas, content, all of those things, to add to the canvas. And then same structure here. We've got kind of this big call to action at the very bottom to join the waitlist. That's here in the wireframe. I also did that over here on mine, sign up for early access. And then a footer at the very bottom. So the structure of this page is actually really good and really close to what I'm actually trying to do in my design. So I could actually use that. So really good influence here. And then there's one more website that I want to walk through, and this one's a bit problematic. So I found this one called Equals, and this is a great reference for what I'm trying to do. And in fact, and why I say it's problematic is it's actually too good. And so sometimes when I find a website like this, and this is the downside to looking for influence, it actually is so close to what I'm trying to do that I could literally steal this website, every single part of it. It fulfills the brief that I have, and that's a problem because I could rip this website off and it would be perfect for what I need, but I don't want to rip a website off. So the temptation is too great. That's why it's problematic. And I'll show you what I mean by this. So first off, it already has the theme that I'm looking for. The style, in terms of the style, colorful and illustrative. We don't see a lot of illustrative here, but in the details we do. So there aren't many big illustrations, but there's a lot of really small details that really check that illustrative box without being too over the top about it. I mean, if I were to critique my design, I was so over the top and so distastefully here, and I used a lot of them and I sized them really big, and most of that was just due to time and the fact that was the most visually interesting thing I could come up with. I could make the illustrations do a lot of the heavy lifting. But this website does it much more tastefully tastefully. It does it in the details. It does it very subtly. So as an example, a couple of examples, just the shaded style on this button. It's almost like a cell animation style, on this button. So just this like, I forget the term for the contour or something like that. Just that style on the button is interesting. The fact that even just using these like colorful stripes in here starts to become illustrative and fun. It gets to be very rainbowy in here, and bright, which I think make this feel fun and colorful and illustrative. And then even here, this is a custom button. So this bitmap style on the play button, I assume that this is a demo that I can play. Just the style on that starts to become very illustrative. And then even in the browser Chrome, so, there isn't browser Chrome here. It's not like a screenshot. It's illustrated, So even just this stripe of yellow at the top to signify the top of a browser bar, I think that's doing a lot to really feed that illustrative style. As we go farther down the page, again, the very subtle, relief, that's the word that I was looking for in this contour, sort of this relief style here. And again, there's a very subtle inner shadow in here on this button, so it feels a bit 3D. And it's not subtly 3D, it's like actually, it's visibly 3D. And again, adding to that illustrative style. Same thing here in the browser Chrome. Like they've actually invented browser Chrome here and abstracted the browser Chrome here. So again, there's all these little touches, this bitmap illustration here, all these little touches that still make it feel illustrative and really fit the style. And then if you look at just from a content standpoint, number one, directly connected. We've got headline, description, and illustration. Headline, description, illustration of the features. But back to my wireframe, same thing. Headline, description, illustration. This one's just flipped from an orientation standpoint, but headline, description, illustration. So a lot of really good things I can lift from this equals.app website. As I scroll down, here you go, more testimonials. This is a great way to do testimonial section. It's not just showing one testimonial, because if you only showed one, it might be like, was there only one person who said something good about it? But the fact that they're showing a lot makes me think that there's probably a lot more where this came from too, and it gives me even more confidence that this is an app that lots of people trust. So I might want to use this app as well. And again, the style of it, very simple, but varying colors on each of these. It hits that colorful style, that illustrative style, in here just by varying the colors in that way. And then these little intermissions, I love these things. They're just visually interesting, and they're places for your eyes to rest. So it's not just text. And that's a mistake that I made in my comp here. Is I just section, and I didn't give any visual places to rest. So this website is doing it masterfully, and I think it's actually a problem that it's so good for the brief that I have in front of me that I almost want to put this away and actually not take too much influence from this. Otherwise, I would be at risk for basically designing this, I think. And then if it comes out, if it gets published, if it gets built, somebody might say like, hey, this looks a lot like the Equal site, and they would be right because I lean too heavily on it. So when I find a piece of inspiration or influence like this, I try to put it away. I try to look at it a little bit and try to grab some concepts from it, but then put it away. Otherwise, the risk to just steal from this is too high. With this one, it's a little bit farther away. I don't want to replicate this style. With this one, I would want to replicate this style. So with this one, I can get some influence from it, but I can abstract it a little bit into a different style to be a little bit better. I would go and start to design from here. So let's pull this artboard out of here, out of this arena. I'm going to move this, and maybe I'll just start with the wireframe here. What I would want to do here is I would want to do the thing that is the easiest for me and the most clear for me. So that doesn't necessarily have to be the top. That might be at the bottom. That might be somewhere in the middle. But I would start with the thing, if I was doing this for a client, I would start with what is the most compelling thing? What is the thing that I think will get people to sign up for early access? Because that is the main call to action on this page. Enter your email, get early access. Well, I think for an AI design tool, what I would want to do is I would want to just put in a prompt right at the top and let it show me, let it prove to me what it's doing. So a lot of these things, and this is a thing that's not in the wireframe. This is a new concept that I'm coming up with. For the challenge, I wouldn't come up with a new concept, but if I'm doing this as a real project, I would come up with a concept. If I thought it was better than what was here, I would definitely go with that. So we have some examples lower down on the page, and a lot of these are screenshots, right? So see examples. Remagine is trained on thousands of beautiful designs, so it's learned from the best. And it shows a prompt here where somebody might type in a website, hero, header section that would win the RDL. And then this is the image that would be generated, and this is a carousel that I can cycle through. I think that we could move this farther up on the page because I think this would be more compelling. And I think that this should be the hero, but I also think that it should be live. And so if it's live, I think we could have some motion, we could have some animation, it could be interactive so we can get people to want to interact with this thing, with this element itself. So I think that's the place that I'm going to start. I'm going to go up here at the top and I'm going to just start to hide some of these things that are already here, and I'm going to make my own header. So let's get rid of some of these things. Do I want to keep the text in? I don't know. I'm going to remove these for now. And what I want at the very top, I think, is a box. So I'm just going to draw a box, and we'll center that. And this is going to be like an input field or something like that. I don't know anything about colors or typefaces quite yet, but I'm almost going to make my own wireframe sort of to just go like, what's the functionality that I want here? And in order to compel people, I almost want to make this like a dare. Like, yeah, good, type something, type something and you'll see what comes up. So I have that idea. I want to just get a screenshot in here because I think that'll help me make this real, because right now it's a little bit too abstract in my mind. So let's see, what can I put in here? Maybe, I don't know if any of these assets actually do what I want it to do. Maybe this one. Let's start here. So let's grab this, and I'm going to put this in the header. Oh no. Okay, this is a frame. So the problem with this is that everything in it resizes. I don't like this. I just want this as a bitmap. So I'm going to copy, I'm going to make this a PNG, and I'm just going to copy it in here as well and paste it in here again. Where did that paste? Let's bring it back in the header. All right, and it's gigantic. So let's bring that down. All right, so I'm going to use this as my screenshot. And the concept that I have here is you type something in a box, it automatically generates, right? So there's probably going to be a couple of states that I would have to design if I was trying to convince a client that, like, hey, this is a great idea for this website. There's probably a couple of states that I'd want to design, and maybe we'll get to that here. We'll see how time shakes out. So I'll grab this, I'll center this, and now already I'm like, well, I don't have enough contrast here. And this is where maybe I would start to play with some color, is like, maybe let's get some color on this page. Now before, when I had this design, where did it go? This design over here, I just grabbed this yellow from a mood board, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab a mood board yellow. I just grabbed this yellow from one of these and I just ran with it. In hindsight, I don't like this yellow. It's like, it's too, I don't know. It's like, it's maybe too pale to feel colorful and vibrant. Like I would want this yellow to be more vibrant. Right now it feels a little bit sickly. So I just don't like that color. I stuck with it for the competition, but I want to use something a little bit more colorful or a little bit more vibrant in this, because I think that's what I want the tone and the vibe of this design to actually be. So I don't know, I'll just play with some color. I'll start with that yellow and we'll just see. Well, maybe I'll sample some of the colors from here. I don't think this is the color that I actually want. Where is this white coming from? From my header. All right, my nav bar also has a fill color on it. All right, so I don't like this yellow. I'm going to change it, but it does give me that contrast that I'm looking for in here. So now the screenshot starts to stand out. So let me go back to some of my inspiration here. Let's see what these sites that I'm really liking are doing. So this purple, this screenshot against this purple stands out really well. Maybe it's because of the drop shadow behind this. So maybe that's the thing that I'll do to kind of beef that up. The other thing that I could do here is maybe I could just inset it in one of these rounded corner boxes. Maybe that'll give it enough contrast. So I could try a couple of those variations. If I wasn't working in this Relume arena, I might actually have a couple of different artboards set up. It's just there's a lot of stuff on here already, so I don't know that I want to do that. But I'm going to try that. Let's see. Grab this. Maybe I can do an inset thing. So maybe this goes inside that. And now I can change this to a color. Maybe the color comes from here, and I'm just going to grab some colors randomly. Let's eyedrop from here. This purple's kind of nice. So I wonder if that'll be a thing that I do. It's kind of cool. We've got some contrasting colors in here, and the yellow and the purple. So now I'm getting this weird effect where it's like window, a window on a window on a window. I don't know that I want to do that. So how does this site solve it? Maybe by putting other content here in that inset. So maybe that's a thing that I'll do is that. Let me get rid of this border here because that's bothering me. Is it a border? Where's that coming from? Nope, not on the header. It's on the nav bar. There we go. There's that stroke. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that. Now that feels a little bit better to me. So let's see. I'll use this as a mask. Nope, that's not what I want. Let's make this a little bit larger. And I'm going to turn off some of these lower sections right now because they're just kind of getting in the way. So let's move this down. We'll move this down. I don't know that I'm liking this. I think it's this yellow that's just bothering me. So let's see what happens if I turn that yellow back to white. I like that a lot better. So I'm still getting kind of this colorful vibe in here from the purple, but maybe it can be on white, or I don't know. Let's try black. What would happen if I put this on kind of a darker background? Yeah, that might be pretty cool. All right, let's do that. I'm gonna go with this gray background, and then maybe the colors will actually pop a little bit more on that darker background. I'm gonna treat it like photography, like have a middle gray or a dark gray back there, and then have the colors kind of pop on top of that. All right, so I'll pick that. Probably later on, what I'll do is I'll come up with a color palette and come up with a rationale for the color palette that I'm actually using. But right now, I'm just playing around, and seeing what could be compelling here. So let's bring that. Where's my input? I'm gonna bring my input back, and let's make that white, and let's make that, let's give it a prompt here. And then I said earlier that we should just dare the audience to do something, dare the user. So I'm going to write this in the form of a dare. I'm going to say, prompt me to design anything. We'll center that on screen. And let's make this big here. So one thing that's kind of jumping out at me as I'm doing this is that I'm starting to come up with like a voice for this website. Like it's almost like the website is talking to me. I don't know if that's a theme that I'll stick with, but that could be interesting as something that we can weave throughout the rest of this page. Maybe it's the website saying like, try this, do this, how about this, think about this. I wonder if there's some sort of theme that we can tie through the rest of the page by doing that. And then, what we'd want to put in here is an actual prompt. So, and I'm not sold on this typeface quite yet. I'm just using something. Probably in here, I'd want to because this is an AI tool, because there's a lot of prompts and inputs and things like that, I probably want to explore some sort of mono font or monospace font or something like that. So that probably has a role somewhere in here. So I'll get there. I'll get there in the details, but not quite yet. Right now, I'm just trying to get the structure down and trying to get the voice and the story of this page down. So prompt me to design anything, and let me get an actual prompt in here. I find that working with real content is always helpful because it helps me to really understand and get the voice down. So, here's an example of an actual prompt. So I'm just going to use that. There's something that bothers me about center aligned text in an input, but whatever, I'll solve that later. But this is the idea, is almost like putting your money where your mouth is. And, if I was designing this for a real client, what I would do is I would write that idea down somewhere. It's like maybe when I present it to them, that's the overall theme of this page is like, put your money where your mouth is, or like prove it to me, or something like that. That maybe that's a theme that could run from section to section. So, this is not the right copy here. I'll probably write something a little bit better for that. But just showing that this thing ties to this thing. And I think motion could help with that. I think that some more iconography or illustration, that's where some of that stuff might come in handy. And I might even do something like, I don't know if this is going to stick around, but all right, something like that. Super rough. I can go back in and touch those up, or I can find like some graphics or something like that to use, some arrow graphics to use and some vectors like that. But something like that just kind of ties some of these things together. I don't know that I love that, but it's an idea. And I think this is the kind of stuff that you have time to explore when you're doing this, not in a 30-minute challenge. That this is an idea. It might not pan out, but I can explore it. I can put it aside. I can try something else in here, and see. So, I'll label this. I'll label these layers. I'll turn these off. And I would still continue to design in here and see what else I could do. So I'm going to go back to some of my inspiration here. Let's go back to the kernel site. I just like the content hierarchy here of like headline, subhead, and then join the waiting list. So I'm not going to do a join the waiting list here, or I don't know, that might be a little confusing because there's an input here that might actually look like a button too. And especially if I put like a email sign up form here, input that does something different than input here, that might be really confusing. Plus the fact that there's UI in here. So I don't want to complicate this too much. I really like this, so I'm going to stick with this idea. So I'm going to keep this around and start labeling some stuff. I'm going to start organizing some stuff. All right, so I need to make this more compelling. So I want to work on the copy here a little bit. Maybe it's design anything with words, or design with your words. A lot of times with prompts, we see like quotes around it. So I wonder where to put the quotes to not feel like you have to enter the quotes. I don't know, maybe I'll put them around the input. This just doesn't feel like an input quite yet. Maybe the corners are a little too round. Let's do that. Feels a little bit better. Do I need like a submit button or something like that here? Submit button here. How about over here? So I'm getting a little stuck here. I'm not quite sure what to do with this section. I might move on and then come back to here. I'm not crazy about what's happening here. There's some interesting things. I think this purple could work. It's making it colorful, but again, I'm not thrilled with this. So sometimes I'll just move on from here and we'll see what comes up. I think it's the font that I'm not crazy about. So I might come back and play with some of those to see if there's something that I can kind of hang my hat on as a theme. But maybe I'll just go and design something a little bit easier. So I'll go and do, maybe this one, this generate web design concepts in seconds, and just use this kind of traditional layout of like headline and subhead and then an image. And maybe I'll figure out some stuff in that then I can go back and apply to the header or the hero section. So I'm going to come back here. I mentioned liking this site, this equals.app site, and there's just a simple layout here, a headline, a text, and an icon. And actually, that reminds me, I've got some really good like doodad thingies in my assets. So I wonder if I can do something directly related to this. So I'll just try it. So I'm going to come in here and let's see, where do I have that? I've got this layout, and that's this thing. All right, and I'll turn off the background color, and I think so. I'm gonna have to play with fonts now anyway, so might as well figure out some of my type hierarchy stuff here. So We'll change this to white to kind of work on a dark background. Or actually, no, I have these like these sections of rounded corners, and I think, was it the kernel site that did something like that too? Let's go back in here. Oh yeah, okay. So it did it with the same color as above. So let's see. I wonder if the purple will just work everywhere. Let's find out. Let's drop that in here. Let's see if purple is going to be my choice as the thing that'll work in all of these. I don't know. We'll find out. Something in my mind says if I'm trying to design something colorful that I should use a lot of colors, but I don't know, that might be, I'm not sure if that's right or not. Let's try this. And I'm going to turn off this placeholder image. And in prep for this, I used all of the PP, the Pangram fonts, just kind of type them out so that I can quickly browse them without having to go through the type thing here. So I wonder what typeface I could use. Got some more kind of utilitarian stuff up here. I think I want something with a little bit more personality, maybe a serif. So let's see. I did use PP Acma in my design. I wonder if it'll work in my competition design. I wonder if it'll work well here. So let's see, PP Acma. It's not bad. So I picked it very quickly when I did it in the competition, but now I have some time to kind of assess this a little bit. Where whenever I pick a typeface or kind of work with type, I'm trying to think like, what does the personality of this typeface actually say? So to me, this typeface is a bit whimsical in some of the way that it's drawn. There's a lot of extremes in here, and these like very thicks and very thins. So does that relate to the content itself? You know, I want the typeface, I want the typography to actually relate to I want it to say what the site is saying or what the product is saying without having to say it, just in the letter forms. And so is this text to speech thing or AI design tool, is it about whimsy? It's not, it's about speed. So maybe I want to find something that feels a bit more maybe technical or maybe fast. So let's see, what do I have here in my file that feels faster or feels more technical? PP Formula, you know, it could be that. So let's see, let's give that a try. Let's see, PP Formula. That feels more technical. It's more like angular here. Oh, I know what we'll do. It's a bit cliche here, but we're going to do it anyway, which is, I'm going to try, is it in here? PP Neue Machina. Because it's got that, you know, it's got these like ink trap things that feel very technical. I know it's just a really popular font, so I tend to stay away from stuff like that, but I don't know, it might fit. Yeah. Yep. That's the one. Feels technical. So I think what I'll need to choose is like just the weights and that all caps. I'm really liking that. I think I can do something interesting texturally, like with the texture of the typography by using this font. So I think I'm going to stick with this for now. Do I have a mono weight of that? I wonder. What do I have here that's mono? Peer Sans, no, Right Sans, Supply. I don't know if I have a monospace font from Pangram. Chrono Serif, nope. Okay, so let's see if I can make that one typeface work all the way through. And I talked about quotes earlier. Let's get these quotes in here. These quotation marks. Oh, interesting. It goes the other way. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm liking this. So, all right, I'm not going to play with that too much. Let's apply it down here and see if it actually helps and actually works. All right, I'm going to look at my sample imagery and my examples and see what I can steal from here. All right, I said I was going to grab those doodads. So let's see. Let's go back to our assets. Where are they? Here we go. Some cool stuff in here. Let's grab something like this. And let's see. Let's see if that works for us. Ooh, we got a stroke on them too. Oof, vibrates. All right, so let's just go with kind of a monochromatic style here. So one thing that I'm not loving is the contrast of this white text on this purple. I just don't think that contrast is going to hold up. I don't think that's going to be very accessible. I'm going to test that in just a minute. But just already, it just feels like it's not going to work. So I'll have to do some messing around with the color palette here, but I'm going to try to hold off on that so I can kind of do one thing at a time. Let's bring this type size down. And just in terms of type size, what I'm doing is I'm trying to stick with multiples of 8. I know it's a really popular thing in web and UI design. So I've got 40 points here, and I generally like to go with 1.5, but I like to do it not in terms of percentages. I like to do it in terms of a point size. I don't know why. I don't think I have a good reason for that. But I kind of like how this section is shaping up, and maybe I can do a like half and half thing here where I can pull this over, and let's just make that a different color because I can see it. Well, I was going to even out those edges, but it kind of looks cool like that. So now I'm going to drop an illustration in here. So generate web design concept in seconds. Which one of these screenshots can actually do that? I mean, it'll probably be an animation there anyway. But yeah, I mean, I guess the problem here is that I don't have enough product assets to actually illustrate those concepts. So I'm going to put in some placeholders for right now. I'm not going to grab that frame. I'm just going to copy it as a PNG. I just want to work with it as a flat graphic. I think all the details in there is going to kind of trip me up. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try to use that as a mask. Oh boy, I didn't paste in the right place. Let's see. Let's paste it there. That's not what I want either. Let's paste it here. There we go. And then I'll use that as a mask, and then I'm going to shrink this way down. And yeah, maybe we could do something like that. This color is bugging me out. Oh, this. A little bit darker there. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, I do want to flatten this out a little bit, so let's grab those corners and this one and this one. Zero those out. Yeah. All right, I'm liking that. I think that's a solid section. I don't think that has to do too much more than that. And I think in here we can kind of do some animation stuff like they're doing on the kernel site. I think it's the kernel site, right? Yeah, in here. So kind of do some, this kind of overlapping graphic thing, that's a thing that we can use there and there too. So maybe this is a backdrop. We can make this a little bit smaller, and we can bring in some of those zoomed in UI elements in here. Now I had those in terms of assets, and just make this a little bit more rich of an interaction. So, I forget the content. So let's get something with the content. What was the content of that section? That is generate web design concepts in seconds. Okay. So which one of these is generate web design concepts in seconds? Which one's closest? Export, I guess. Sure. Again, I'll grab that as a PNG. Just want to work with the image, not the actual assets themselves. And I will drop it on top of this. Yeah, so maybe there's like this kind of thing. And oh, you know what? I wonder if I was thinking about some depth and some shadows to some of these things. And I wonder if we create sort of our own style for the shadows on this. So, you know, I could use the Figma effect here. I can just create a drop shadow and offset that a bit. Let's see. Let's do this. But I don't know that honors kind of this flat style here that we've got going. And I know it's not an intentional style quite yet, but maybe we could make it one by doing some interesting things with that. So I'm going to kill this shadow, and let's draw a rectangle, and let's draw some manual shadows here. Let's go here, and let's find out what that radius is. 16, maybe it's about 12. Okay, that's cool. And we'll drop the opacity down of that to maybe 50%. And let's start messing with the colors of this. So if I grab like this pink, yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff that I want to do. Like, I think now we can get yep. We can get very interesting with the color palette of this, where we can start to do some offset shadow things, and maybe this will tie into some button styles that we kind of use later on. Okay, I'm liking this. It's not refined quite yet. I don't think that I've got the radius quite right anyway. Let's see. Nope, wrong way. Yeah, maybe about there. Yeah, maybe it was about 16. That was all right. I had it closer before. So I like how that's looking. We'll use this. All right, so now I think I've gone as far as I can without touching the color here. Let's test these colors. So I'm going to sample this, and I'm going to bring this into my favorite accessibility testing contrast tool, and we're going to test this. Generate color palette, and let's see if we put that against white. Or even close to it. Oh, actually, it's not bad. 3.28, and the goal ratio is 3. So it's not awesome. It could be better, but it actually passes the level 2A, the WCAG Web Content Accessibility Guidelines level 2A, which is good. But let's just see if there's anything more interesting in here. What if we put like some of these browns, a little dark, start to get a little muddy. What else? In the blues, maybe some blues could be cool. Or some greens. Yeah, these start to get really dark. So I think this is what I didn't like about this color, is this purple color, is that it's neither dark nor light. So I think that we're losing some interesting color combination things that we could do if we had darkened up the purple or maybe made it a little bit lighter. So, all right, I need to go a different direction with these colors. So let's do something different with the colors. Let's go to, I'll use a color palettes plugin, and let's see if we can find something that looks interesting enough that we can use. All right. So I want something colorful. This is colorful, but these colors feel a little muddy. This is really, really vivid. Maybe that's a little too vivid. It's kind of a pastel look in there. I mean, these might be a little bit better. All right, let's add these. Let's see if we can use these. Thank you, color palette panel. Let's take you all, and where did this paste? This pasted way outside here, so let's bring it in a little bit closer to our comp here. And And let's put this over here. Okay, so let's see what happens if we start to use some of these colors. See if that changes anything. I'm going to grab this and we'll sample this. Okay, feels a lot more rich. Now, all of a sudden, this is much more high contrast. Let's see if we've got any interesting color options if we use that hex code. So generate color palette, and let's see what we got. Aha, we've got some much more interesting. Look at that. Okay, let's try this. If we go in the yellow, oh, now we can play with some neons. Now we can play with some oranges. What else? We have some pinks in here as well if we want to do a little bit more like monochromatic style. So we have just much more range of things that we put. This blue and purple, what an interesting combination. Let's try that. I don't know that that's going to stay, but let's just see how that works. Oh, so vibrant. Okay, it vibrates a lot. I'm not sure that I'm going to stick with that, but this is what I mean about just being able to use a lot more interesting colors in here. There's some interesting like pinks and yellows in here. I wonder if I can bring some of those in, and then I don't have to do a lot of work in the illustrations because a lot of the illustrations already have these colors. So I wonder if I could pick up some of these colors. Let's go with this yellow, and actually this yellow is already here in my color palette. So let's see if I can pick a yellow that I think is going to be accessible, that I know will be accessible on this. Let's go here. Let's see how that looks. All right, we got sort of a complementary color yellow-purple thing happening here. Kind of interesting. Let me just try one more thing. Let's try to go a little bit into the oranges a little bit more. Let's see if that doesn't look too weird. That's not bad. And then with this, maybe I can bring these back out to white. Oh, actually that like lavender kind of look cool too. All right, but even the white works in here. All right, I think I have something that I'm liking a lot more. I got to change this color now and make it fit a little bit closer to, what are we calling this? Fuchsia or something like that. Use a little bit darker shade of that. Look at that. It's, oh, much more rich. Much more rich. Yeah, I'm feeling that. Still not feeling this orange though. Maybe we can just tie in the colors that we're using over here. What happened? Flower, why are you not? Oh, stroke, duh. There you go. It's feeling kind of good now. All right, so I'm gonna use that as kind of an anchor point, and let's see what happens if we then start building some things based on this. And so this is the kind of thing that I would spend a lot of time doing, you know, if I'm doing this work for a client, because it takes time to build up and just kind of find some of these things that are interesting. And these are things that you just don't have time to find in a 30-minute challenge. So sometimes this takes, you know, a couple minutes to stumble upon. Sometimes this takes, you know, hours to do. But eventually you find it and you can do some cool things with it. So now I want to flip these around. Where'd my flower go? Oh, it's because it wasn't in here. All right, let's try this again. Let's cut this flower. Let's get it in that frame. Now, when I duplicate it, now it should come along. Okay, cool. I gotta flip these around. So let's take this. These can go over here. And I'm gonna take this group. I want to bring this, oh, I have to bring the background with it. Bring this over here. And I want to flip the corners of that. So 16, 0, 0, 16. There we go. This had to come over too. I guess I can get rid of these now. This flower comes over. All right, let's get some of this new copy in here. Copy designs to Figma or export as a PNG. A quick tip, I'll paste into a browser so it copies it as plain text, and then I don't have to worry about changing the font. And there you go. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of this. Now I need one more, copy designs to Figma or export as PNG. Let's find an asset. Again, not the right assets for this, so maybe I could just actually keep what I had in there as a placeholder until I get new assets. Where is it? This. There we go. And then I will bring over one of the smaller assets. I can use a new one of those at least. So this one's about Figma. Let's use the color picker. This one's kind of cool. Copy that as PNG. Maybe that'll go here. And I want to bring my shadow back. That cool shadow thing. There we go. Make it a little taller. And a little wider too. And I want to bring a new doodad over. Let's see. How about this guy? Make sure we got our same yellow. Those to roughly the same size. Turn off our flower. And there we go. We've got our doodad. All right. So I'm not thrilled by this, but it's starting to shape up. And I think that's what we want right now, is just to get this to shape up. There we go. And there are some things that I can build upon here. So let me start to create a little bit more depth here. One thing I'm realizing is this is now starting to feel like have some depth when you put like a darker color next to a lighter shade of itself. So I wonder if I can make this just a touch darker to make it feel like there's some depth in here. So let's grab this, and then where's this other one? Here. Just make it just a touch darker. Yeah, there we go. All right, I think this is starting to come together. Okay, so I've got two sections that I'm feeling pretty good about. I haven't really touched this top section, but I think now I'll go back to this top section because I've built some momentum in designing these two things now. Right, I've got some things that I'm feeling good about, and now I wonder how I can bring some of those things and tie them back into what I've got over here in the hero, or what I've got over here in some of these other sections. Let me just do a quick browse of all of this to see, like, all right, where am I going to go from here? So let's go up to the top here, and let's start bringing some of these colors actually from the bottom up into the top. And I mentioned earlier that I didn't know if I was going to go with the, let's see, back to this kernel website, like all of the different sections on this website all use this dark green. So everything has this kind of monochromatic look to it, which is kind of cool. Or if I were to go a little bit more like varied, where like this is blue and then this is green and then this is yellow, and just use kind of a rainbow, you know, my own rainbow of colors here. One thing I want to try is, what I'm realizing is, I just said it, that this whole page is monochromatic, and that is a particular approach to color that I'm going to try that. So maybe what I'll do is I'm going to, instead of this page being dark, now I'll go in and actually grab like in the same way that this site has dark green and kind of this pale green, I wonder if I could do dark purple and like a pale purple, and if that would actually work for the content and for the style here. So if I can grab this like pale purple, let's see. That's not too bad. I mean, I don't want it to get gray, and I also don't want it to be like too pinky purple in here either. Here we go. Now we've got kind of the same idea that we had on this site, this kernel site. You know, kind of using green and green. You know, that darker, that more vivid version than pale, and I've got a more vivid version and a pale here too. So I'm gonna stick with that. I'm liking how that's looking so far. It works really well, I think, with these two sections. So I'm gonna keep chugging along here. Let's create a little bit of space. One thing I don't like about what I'm doing right now is it feels very much like thing, you know, element. I want to create a little bit more just connectedness between all of these elements. And I think there's a couple ways to do that. One being counterintuitive. So one is I can just put them closer together and then have some overlapping things. I think that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, though, I think, is to create more space in between these and do some stuff in the negative space. I think maybe that's what this site is doing as well. Yeah. So like these logos just going in the negative space here between the darker green sections. I might just lift that straight from here, you know, onto the site in its own way. Now, I don't want to just straight up copy and paste here. I wonder if there's a way to remix this with what some other sites are doing too. So, you know, let's see what I might be able to do here. I'm going to go back up to the header here because this feels a bit unresolved to me. And I think it's the spacing mostly. So if I just grab this nav bar, I mean, already that's feeling better now too. So let's just get the font in here because I think that'll help already just tie this all together. And so we were using PP Neue Machina. And I'll make those white. I don't know if that white's going to work on there. I wonder if we make these the dark purple. Nope, still not right. But whatever, I'll stick with white for now. All right, so I'll get to that next. Let's just make sure we get the logo here. Make that ultra bold. Make that big here. And let's go with all caps. It's starting to compete a little bit. Maybe we'll go with just another typeface for now. PP Acma. Nah, I'm not a fan. I know I don't have to design the logo, but here we are. Pangram Sans Rounded. I want something just to have some contrast from all the other type. PP Pangram Sans Rounded. There we go. Much better. Semi-bold? Sure. Okay, that's cool. I like that. And then we'll go with a rounded button here. A little too much for that size. And I want a pretty significant call to action for get early access. So we'll make that. Bring in this purple. Oh, so here's an opportunity to bring in another color now, I think, because we don't have a lot of calls to action on this page. There's nothing that we're actually doing. So I wonder if there's an opportunity there to just bring in some of this other these other things in the color palette that we have here. Maybe this is where some of that orange comes in, or we'll see how we can make some of those things work. What was I using? Neue Machina. Yep, cool. Looking good. What's in here? Auto layout? Yes. I don't want auto layout. All right. So let's see what happens if we change the color. Is this going to look gross? Kind of gross. Not crazy about it. I don't hate it. Let's see what else we can do. Yellow. Oof. Pink. That's not bad. So this is like sticking with this monochromatic thing. Maybe that's just what I should do. It's just really go in with, because they're all sort of, these are definitely tints of each other and shades of each other. This is close in hue. It's a little slightly different hue, but I wonder if we'll just stick with that and just kind of bring some of these pinks in. This starts to compete a little bit, which I don't love. So I might have to figure out what to do with that. But it's starting to bring in a third color, a third element to work with. I think I've kind of reached my limit of just these two colors, with white. I think I've started to reach the extent of what I could do with that. I'm not sure what else I could do. I have this yellow. Let's see if we can grab that yellow. I forgot about that yellow. Let's bring you down a little bit. How about you, yellow? You gonna be yellow? What do we do here? Purple? Yeah, feels a little out of place up there. Nothing else up here has that yellow. But maybe, I don't know, maybe that sort of like ties you down the page. All right, I'll resolve that later. I've got time. This is not like a 30-minute challenge or anything. That would be ridiculous. So I've got some time here. Bring that nav bar down a little bit more. But it's getting there. It's getting to be something that I feel is working well. The copy has to do the job, and overall, this whole page has to do the job. So I mentioned I had this idea for what to do here. Let me bring this input down. Oh, I wonder if this should go just like right on top. Nah. And what I'd like to do with this is just get some more copy in here. All right, so let's grab some lorem ipsum. Oh wait, do I have some real copy? I do have. What's this say? Imagine generates beautiful editable web designs from a simple text description. Wonderful. Let's paste it in the browser. Now I've got it as plain text. That goes here. Smaller font size. I don't want all caps anymore. And regular. All right, let's bring all these up a little bit more. Let's make sure we've got some consistent spacing in there. now this is starting to come together. Okay, so let's do a little bit of an inventory here. There's definitely some stuff in here that I'm not a fan of quite yet. Some things that are competing. But let's put this up against where we were before in the 30-minute challenge. Now, definitely different styles, and I could do the same thing in this same style, but what I feel like this is doing is it's a lot tighter of a value proposition. And I think that's the main difference between what is happening in a 30-minute design challenge and what happens when you actually take some time to design some of the interactions and the copy and the connectedness of a particular interface. Is here, this was just basically putting the name of an app on the page and saying, like, sign up, get early access. And it looks cool, and that might be enough for some people to sign up. But I think there's got to be some things that are compelling about it that make you want to sign up here. So right now, I'm not actually asking anybody to sign up for anything other than here. Maybe that's what we do in this space down here. So I don't want to get to this yet. Oh, actually, I already did this part. I made this the hero, so I don't even need that section anymore. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these two things down, and in this negative space, maybe this is where I do the sign up for early access thing. So in terms of the story of the page, in terms of the conversation the page is having, the page is basically saying to the user, design with your words. Reimagine generates beautiful, editable web designs from a simple text description. And I'm going to add to this, try it out. Or try it out below. And maybe we can do like an arrow, or something like that right below this. So let's see. I had an arrow somewhere. I'll just redraw it. The pen tool. All right. And let's put, there we go. All right, sorry for that sidetrack. So we were talking about the story of the page. So the idea is design with your words, Reimagine generates beautiful, editable web designs from a simple text description. Try it out below. And you can type right in here. And maybe we could have some animation when the page is first loading that sort of type this thing in, and then you would see this generate. I think that's the kind of thing that we can't do in a comp here. We might be able to do in a prototype, but I think those are the kinds of things that really make pages like this sing, is you see this generate, and then maybe after a couple of seconds, this might go away and regenerate something else, and really just call to you to edit this thing here and see what you might be able to come up with. And then I think the next piece of that conversation is, you tried it yourself, you've done something here, and you're like, that's pretty cool. I wonder what else this can do. And then we give here maybe a little bit of social proof that says, like, trusted by companies like, and we put a bunch of logos here of companies that this target user might admire. And then right below that, so the conversation is, look how cool this is. You've tried it on your own. Other people trust this too. Want to give it a whirl. And so from a conversation standpoint, this is like the 1, 2, 3 combo at the top of the page. And then if the user's not convinced, then perhaps a little bit more. Well, it's got this feature. You can generate web design concepts in seconds. It's got this other feature. You can copy designs to Figma and export as PNG. So a little bit more convincing down the page if you're not convinced at this point. But perhaps this is the point to have a call to action that will repeat at the bottom again. If the user, just to kind of compel the user one more time. So this is the kind of stuff that, that I want to take time with. This is the kind of stuff that I want to make sure, is right, that the copy is good, that the functionality is compelling, and these are all the things that kind of go out the window in a 30-minute challenge. So let's do some social proof stuff in here. I'm not going to grab, any specific logos here, but I'll just grab these to sample. We'll see if we can blending mode these enough. Cool. Let's see. How can we do this? desaturate these. And I might want to invert these. Oh, I want to paste this in the right place. There we go. Then up the contrast, the exposure, and then let's see if we've got some blends that'll work. Almost. There we go. All right. So not perfect, but get the idea here. I'll add a little copy. It's trusted by brands like. Let me make that a little bit smaller. Oh, probably I didn't want to invert these. Let's invert the invert. I'm going to go the other way. And then I'll multiply instead. There we go. Just the opacity. What I'd probably want to do is just tint those to all be this dark purple, but hopefully you get the idea here. I don't need to go through that specifically. At least I don't think so. All right, and then what did I say we're going to do? Now we'll do the sign up for early access, right? So what did we have on our wireframe? What did we want? Get early access. So enter your email. I already have an input. Why make one from scratch? Here's one. And do I have a button? I think I have a button up here. Oh, I wonder if I could do that shadow thing up here. Let's see. Where did I put that shadow? No, I'll just redo it. Get outside that button. What's 8? Okay, we could probably do a better job of that button, but that's the idea. It's got kind of a 3D thing to it now, that's a little bit different than how we have it here. Maybe we need to put something behind it in order for it to have that like ghosted effect. Just turn the opacity down. Yeah, it's better, I guess. All right, we'll use that. Copy that, go down here. And need to make that a little bit bigger. That didn't work. There we go. Turn off auto layout. That's on me. Get early access. Center that. Oh, it's not right. All right, so I wonder if we need a header or something like that on here that says something like, let's go up here. Try it yourself, or something like that. Or I don't know. I wonder if it's self-explanatory enough. I wonder if it's just get early access, bro. Well, let's leave it like that. So this is the kind of thing that I would actually leave for a client, and I would ask them a question. I would prompt them at the beginning of a design presentation and ask them something like, so the thing that I'm looking for feedback on is whether or not this prompts the user at the right point and heavily enough to sign up for early access. And then I would leave it to them. They might say like, it's just not prominent enough, or I don't see how I could do that, or like, yeah, this is totally self-explanatory. So I'd be looking for that in the feedback for the actual presentation. So I actually feel like this is coming together pretty well. I wasn't crazy about some of the choices, but this is something that I learned about design, is that sometimes as you leave stuff and fill it in, you start to like it more and more because you just see more of the context around it. So let's see, what do I have left? Testimonials, I think. Yeah, I think I have testimonials, right? So what can I do with the testimonials? I already started to do some negative space things here. I wonder if I could use some negative space things here for the testimonial. Oh, and it's also occurring to me that I didn't use blur anywhere. I know that's one of the mystery items that I have to do, is this blur thing. So I wonder, as an easy thing, I saw that somebody mentioned this in the comments of the 30-minute challenge, that we could use blur is almost this like parallax thing, where like, as things are farther in the background, like a depth of field thing even. So I wonder if, like, now that I've got some layers happening here, where things are on top of things and some other things recede, I wonder if we can just dim this back to make it look like it's farther in the background, or something like that. And that's where we can use this blur effect. And then especially when it comes to the shadows, when it comes to the movement, we can, the movement even furthers that, this blur, that as you're scrolling down the page, maybe it comes into focus, or maybe it moves, or it's kind of farther back there. As a static design, this sucks, because then it just looks like are my eyes, is my screen weird? But when it comes to movement, if this maybe comes into focus after a while, or it, or anything, something like that, maybe we can kind of use that parallax effect and depth of field effect to kind of draw. So, all right, check the box there on my mystery item. Maybe there's some other opportunities to do that with some other elements floating around here. Like, I could maybe bring some of the assets in. I didn't use any of these illustrations quite yet, so maybe there's some opportunity for some of those. Maybe I can use some of these, where are they? Some of these doodads a little bit more. All right, like grab this one. Oh, here, okay. Maybe this comes out here like this. And we'd use some like kind of parallax things with those. And this comes out here, or maybe here. Come all the way out, maybe here. And then we can do some other things like the smaller versions of these in different Z space. Oops, not export. Can be a little bit blurrier like that. Right? And they can be kind of subtle effects as you scroll down the page to kind of draw your eye with both that yellow color, that call to action color, and all these things too. But hopefully this gives you a better sense of kind of my thinking on how I would approach a real design for a client in an extended amount of time as opposed to just 30 minutes, and the difference between what I would do if I was actually taking my time to design something like this versus if I was just trying to complete something and get it done in a 30-minute timeline. Let's move this over. I'm going to bring my original design back. Here we go, side by side. I'll leave it up to you. Did I do better when I had more time? Did I do better when I had less time? I don't know. I think there's a good argument to be made for maybe this is the better design, maybe this one is, but hopefully this gave you a better view of how I'd approach it very differently given the time constraints. One is about a design process to achieve a certain thing. Another one is about winning a competition, that's about speed. Let me know in the comments if you think one design is better than another, or if you learn different things in different parts of this process. And there you have it. This is my redux of the Relume Design League challenge, where I remove the requirement of the 30-minute time limit and actually try to create a design that fulfills an actual user need. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like this, let me know. I'll make more videos like it. See you soon.